Hello, Pack. By now, almost everyone has seen Disney's newest hit, Encanto. While I've seen several reviews on the movie, I have yet to see one consistent thing, and that is a view on Tio Bruno's gift.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, that Bruno. Let's go ahead and talk about him. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Stealthy Doggo. I'm new to doing YouTube, so this is a new type of video that I'm trying out. If you enjoy it, please leave a like and a comment. It lets me know that you want to see more of this type of video. So while watching several reviews of Encanto, I see people stating that Bruno's visions don't always come true, or they come true but not in the way he would have expected, or they're used more as warnings or guiding towards a particular future that he foresees, but they're not always destined to always happen. But I think this isn't entirely true. I think his visions always come to fruition the way he foresees them coming to fruition. Let me explain. I think the best way we can answer this is by looking at all of the visions he gives out to everyone. First, the villagers. He has 3 villagers that he gives out 3 different prophecies to, but they're all very mundane prophecies. The first one is about a lady's fish and that the fish is going to die. And just so happens the very next day, the fish dies. The second person, it looks like a relatively buff individual, but he ends up growing a gut. He was foreseen to grow a gut, and that happens. The third one is the village priest, who had a beautiful head of hair, and all of a sudden his hair disappears. Bruno predicts that his hair will disappear, and now his head is completely bald. But these seem like very mundane, very basic prophecies. These are contrasted with the prophecies he gives to the Madrigal family. In Isabella's prophecy, he predicts a life that is of her dreams, that her powers are going to flourish and that they're going to grow stronger and she's going to live the life of her dreams, which seems very on par for her character, but it also seems very off for what we see happening later on in the movie. The second one, Dolores, we see her prophecy being that the man of her dreams will be betrothed to another individual. And that also, we see, doesn't come to fruition either. It almost does, but it doesn't come to fruition either. So that seems to be a second nail in the coffin of Bruno's gifts, or Bruno's visions don't come true. And then finally, with Mirabel, Mirabel's gift, or vision, was foreseen on the request of Abuela. And it had 2 outcomes, it looked like. There was, if you looked at it one way, the house was cracking, and if you looked at it a different way, the house was intact. And these all seem very straightforward, except for Mirabel's vision. But I think the key to understanding all of these prophecies is from seeing Bruno perform the prophecy for Mirabel in Antonio's room. He's able to see the events unfold and even be guided through the vision. As we see Mirabel take his hand and guide him towards the yellow butterfly that he says he didn't see before. You know, it was the same vision he had seen before, but she notices it and guides him towards that butterfly. So it seems like he sees these things in a sequence, but at the very end, he's left with a sea glass-esque picture that he then presents as the vision, as the prophecy. And I think that's very telling upon what everybody else saw, because Bruno typically, before Mirabel intruded upon his room, performed his visions and his prophecies up in his tower, where you had to enter his room, go down a slide of sand, walk up 1,000 steps, and then cross a bottomless pit to finally get into the chamber where he did his visions, where he conducted his visions. So unless all of those villagers, made that trek up there to watch him perform the visions and see the events unfold, I think it's much more likely to say that they received the picture of the future. They received some kind of picture of the future, and maybe Bruno walked through with them what he saw. While I think he did present these pictures with words, like he told them what he saw, Bruno explains that the people always just took whatever they saw in the picture as fact and usually didn't listen to him. We can actually hear him tell Mirabel this on why he didn't give Abuela Mirabel's prophecy. He says, quote, "The vision was different. It would change. Like your future was undecided, but I knew how it was going to look. I knew what everyone was going to think because I'm Bruno and everyone assumes the worst." So this tells me that Bruno would provide these visions before, and he'd probably try to explain what he saw in the course of the events unfolding, but people would just make up their mind based off of the picture that he brought them instead of what he described to them. With that understanding, I think we can start piecing together what the visions were for each of the villagers and what their images might have contained, and also probably for the Madrigal family as well. So we have the three villagers who all received some vision of the future, and they probably requested something like, "Hey, is an important event going to happen in my life? Can you tell me about my future?" They might have just, treated him more of as a carnival attraction and said, "Hey, what's in my future?" And him, because the Madrigals all tried to be helpful to everybody, he might have just obliged and tried to read their future, come down with a picture, and explain something about their future, but they only noticed the thing that they cared about. The lady may have noticed an empty fishbowl or a dead fish in a fishbowl, but the picture was about her meeting a handsome young man. Or the second individual may have, started a family, and so he was dedicating a lot more time to taking care of his family and letting his physique go. And so Bruno's explaining, "Hey, look, you have a beautiful family in the future," but all he notices is the thing he cares about, his pride, his body going out, his physique going out, and him growing a gut. Bruno may not have even mentioned it, except for the fact that it was in the picture. And then with the priest, hair is a very easy thing to notice. So maybe he points out to the priest that, "Hey, you're going to conduct every wedding for every child that you've ever seen in this village, and everybody's going to be so happy you do this." And he's like, "Well, in this picture I'm bald, so that's all I care about." I don't think any of them cared too much about the accomplishments or the prophecies that Bruno provided, but more about what was in the picture that he provided them. And then with Isabella's prophecy, I believe was foretold exactly as we see it happening in the movie. And Isabella may have even been there to see her prophecy unfolding, but not understood what she was seeing. She saw her powers being used to create colors and to create different bushes, vines, plants, other than, perfect roses. And so she knew that eventually her power would be able to do all of this other stuff and she'd be free to express it. But she wasn't sure when that was going to start. She wasn't sure when she'd be allowed to start expressing her power. She just knew that Bruno's prophecies always came true. And so she trusted that that day would eventually come. And instead of standing up to Abuela, she went along with all of Abuela's plans, including to get married to Mariano, knowing that eventually the future she wanted was going to happen. Dolores was probably presented with a picture of Mariano on his knee proposing to Isabella. And so while the marriage never happens, while the betrothal never actually happens, that specific scene does happen as the house is breaking apart, as the family is finding out about Mirabel's prophecy. The scene of Mariano on his knee proposing to Isabel does occur, and that's probably what her picture was that was provided by Bruno. And this leaves us finally with Mirabel's prophecy. See, I think Mirabel's prophecy, while you could turn the picture both ways, wasn't two different outcomes of the same future. I think instead it was two different perspectives of the same future. I think the cracks in the house Madrigal, or the Casita Madrigal, was going to represent the physical cracks that were occurring, the breaking down of the physical house and of the powers that were being held by the Madrigals because of Mirabel's actions, specifically her actions to reorient the family towards the true miracle of the family and not of the gifts. But by doing so, she's able to rebuild the Madrigal family, and by extension, the Casita, back up stronger than it was before, because they all had an understanding of family over gifts. In fact, the second time that Bruno does the prophecy for Mirabel, he points out two things. After she points him to the butterfly, he says, quote, "It's all out of order." And so this tells me that, they're seeing the things that are going to pass. The butterfly landing on the reed, the embrace of Isabella causing the candlelight to grow brighter. But it wasn't a different prophecy. It wasn't saying if she goes and hugs Isabella that the house will be fixed, the cracks will stop. As we see, that doesn't happen. But instead, it's just showing a different part of the same prophecy. The candle does grow brighter after she hugs Isabella. And Bruno, misinterprets this as saying, you're going to help the candle by hugging Isabella. But instead, I think he was on the right track, and that she was going to have to embrace someone in order to keep the family madrigal together, to keep the miracle together. Not helping the candle, but helping what the candle represents, as in the family, the miracle. And so we see Mirabel embracing several people throughout this movie. She hugs Luisa, she hugs Isabella, and then she also hugs Abuela. And all of these are different times where she's connecting with these families. She's understanding the pressures that all of these family members went through. Because even though Abuela is causing a lot of the pressure, she's causing it from a misguided area where she feels that's required in order for them to keep the miracle that her husband sacrificed himself for. The miracle that she thought was Encanto and the whole village, but instead it's the family, the ability for them to be together. But none of these hugs, none of these embraces fixes the casita, but they do help mend the family. You see Bruno able to come back into the family, and together as a family and as a village, they're able to rebuild the casita. But it isn't until the very end, when they're singing the final song, All of You, and the casita is built, and Abuela says, "There's one more thing we need, and it's a doorknob, and we've made this one for you." There's a scene where she's looking at the doorknob, and Abuela asks, "What do you see?" To which Mirabel responds, "I see me. All of me." And I think this is the point where she has embraced the one her that was required in order for her to fix the casita, to fix the family. Because while Mirabel has always wanted the family to get together, to get along together, she's also always wanted to fit in, and she felt that the only way to do so was with a power. But it's finally at this moment where she's feeling accepted that she knows that she doesn't need a power to fit in, because she is actually part of the family madrigal. She's always cared about them, she's always loved them, but she's never felt like she fits in until this moment. And it's this final embrace of herself that she is able to say, "I am a madrigal." I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of videos I want to do with YouTube, but I really enjoyed making this one. I really loved the Encanto movie, and so it made sense for me to make this video. If you enjoy these kind of videos and want to see more of them, please let me know in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Stay stealthy, pack.